Israel has killed over 400 Palestinians, including over 130 children, in a massive bombardment of Gaza on Monday night. Without warning, it carried out airstrikes across the Strip at 3 a.m. local time, issuing forced evacuation orders for several neighborhoods. Israel's bombardment came as Palestinians were preparing for suhoor, the meal eaten before the fasting day during Ramadan. Gaza's damaged hospitals were overwhelmed with patients, lacking the infrastructure and medical supplies to cope with the influx after 2 weeks of Israeli siege and months of bombing. Israel's military said it would continue its assault as long as needed and would expand beyond airstrikes, hinting at another ground invasion. Its actions are the latest of several ceasefire violations over the past 2 months. At its outset in January, Israel withheld temporary homes and construction materials from the Strip, even as Palestinians struggled to find shelter in the winter. As a result, several infants died from the cold. Israel also delayed other commitments, including supplying humanitarian aid, the return of Palestinians to their homes in northern Gaza, and the release of Palestinian prisoners. By day 50, Israel's military refused to withdraw from the Philadelphia corridor along the Egypt-Gaza border as scheduled. It continued occasional airstrikes and shootings in the Strip, killing over 155 Palestinians during the ceasefire. As Phase 1 progressed, parties were meant to meet to start negotiating Phase 2, during which all Israeli captives were meant to be released in exchange for total Israeli military withdrawal from the Strip. But Israel delayed sending a negotiating team to talk. Instead, it entertained Trump's ideas of taking over Gaza and pushing Palestinians out, while demanding a sudden change to the format of the ceasefire. As time for Phase 2 talks ran out and Arab countries scrambled to send reconstruction proposals for Phase 3, Israel dismissed the agreed schedule and instead demanded an extension of Phase 1 and an immediate release of all remaining captives. Once Phase 1 ended on March 1st, Israel tried to force Hamas to agree to these new terms by cutting off all aid, fuel, and later electricity into the Strip, while stepping up its airstrikes, killing dozens more Palestinians. Though Gaza's residents grew increasingly uncertain about their future, nothing prepared them for the massive onslaught of Tuesday morning. But it does follow mounting political pressure on Netanyahu in Israel. His coalition was outraged by the ceasefire when it was first announced. Ben-Gvir's party left the coalition, and Smotrich threatened to quit if it reached Phase 2. To win them back over, Netanyahu repeatedly threatened to return to war and eliminate Hamas for good. And it worked. After Tuesday's assault on Gaza, Ben-Gvir announced he would rejoin the government, which was surviving on a thin 61 out of 120-member majority in parliament. A bigger majority will give Netanyahu the votes he needs to pass the state budget on March 31st. These include controversial plans for increasing political control over judicial appointments, exempting the ultra-Orthodox community from the military draft, and efforts to oust the Attorney General. All of these face huge opposition and require complete support from Netanyahu's coalition. If the budget doesn't pass by the tight deadline in just 2 weeks, parliament would be dissolved and new elections called. By returning to war, Netanyahu can shore up his coalition, but he's also hoping to distract from his own political dramas. The airstrikes allowed Netanyahu to delay yet another scheduled court hearing in his ongoing corruption trial. It also distracts from his firing of Israel's domestic security chief Ronen Bar, a move that is unprecedented in Israel's history, part of Netanyahu's ongoing effort to replace the military, security, and judicial leadership with his own political loyalists. Finally, it would help Netanyahu block multiple investigations threatening his leadership. Demands for a commission of inquiry into responsibility for the 7th of October attacks, a new investigation into his advisors accepting money from Qatar, and his previous policy of allowing payments to Hamas before October 7th. As Palestinians in Gaza and the families of Israeli captives are desperate for the ceasefire to continue, they're increasingly asking, with Israel's prime minister so politically and personally invested in the war, can it ever end?